Click the like, subscribe and the notification bell. It helps the Talisman to keep theatre alive.
Nearly midnight. I should have been asleep hours ago. I was so tired I could hardly stand. Not surprising, really, with that wind outside and the strange old house and so much on my mind. I'll just sit here for a few minutes, drink my cocoa and read this book I took from my library. Strange book of ancient knowledge. Birds of ill omen. Prophetic signs. What was that? A knock at the door? Just a visitor, nothing more. A visitor? At midnight? I remember the last time I heard that sound. It was a cold December night. Not long had I lost my true love, Lenore. December, where the nights are longer, darker. I was finding distraction in my books. I realise now that ghost stories were a bad choice, with the tapping at the door and the room lit only by the dying fire casting ghosts across the floor. Never had I craved daylight so much, if only to help me think of my lost Lenore with a smile, rather than this, haunted by her memory. Her perfume still lingers on the couch where she used to sit. The last time it was him. But this time, it's just a visitor, nothing more. I remember in the darkness I saw the curtain move. It made a sound. It terrified me. To calm my fear, I said aloud, a visitor at my chamber door, nothing more. I'm sorry I took so long to answer the door. I was barely awake and you knocked so gently I could barely be sure it was a knock at all. But when I opened the door, just darkness and nothing more. I gazed out into the quiet dark, inventing reasons for the sound, wondering, fearing, but still just darkness. The silence, my mind inventing, until I realised it was my lost love. I whispered in the dark, Lenore! The whisper, and nothing more. I sat once more, still afraid. This time I knew it. I was ready. I was listening for it. It wasn't the sound of my broken heart in my head, something outside the chamber, louder than before. I needed to know, to explore. Was it the wind, the storm, and nothing more? I threw open the window, and in came not the storm, but a solitary bird, a dark and stately bird, a raven. He could have flown straight from the pages of my ghost stories, but this bird had purpose in his eye. He did not stop to investigate. He seemed not to even notice me or to check before landing and perching above my chamber door, upon my bust of Pallas. Pallas, the goddess of wisdom. The dark bird, whose colour matched the emotions that gripped me that night, the bitter grief I felt for the loss of Lenore, sitting on the bust above my chamber door, emotion over wisdom. It fascinated me, stupefied me. I forgot my sadness, that the bird was nothing more than that, a bird. You sit as royalty, but you have no crest, I laughed. The bird did not share in my humour. Have you flown here from the land of the dead, from the Plutonian shore? Tell me, stately bird, what is your lordly name? Quoth the raven. The bird spoke. At first I stared in amazement, but then I know many birds have the ability to speak, and this raven was surely no different to them. But its reply made no sense. An irrelevant response that his name was Nevermore. I made it my duty to tell him so. Many losses I have suffered, friends and hopes among them. When do you intend to leave me, dark bird? This answer I understood. Through wisdom, through rational deduction, the bird had a master who would curse his own misfortune with that word. Never, nevermore. Yes, I thought, this is how the raven knows the word nevermore. Though stricken by grief, this bird of sorrow amused me. I took to my chair and sat in front of the bird, the bust, and the door. How grim, I thought, how ghastly and gaunt, I thought. What could he mean by nevermore? My amusement faded as we sat in still silence. It stared with its evil eyes until my mind turned back to the sorrow of my lost love. The violet velvet couch where she once sat. The lamplight dancing shadows over the violet velvet couch where she will sit nevermore. The air thickened. Something was here in the dark with me. A scent, one I recognized. Was it an angel? Wretch, I cried. Mine is a miserable soul indeed. Are you here to offer me nepenthe, a potion to help me forget, to rest from my grief, to forget my lost Lenore? Will I ever take a moment's rest from the grief of my lost Lenore? Then quoth the raven. How do you know, I asked the raven, how do you know my future? Are you the devil, or were you sent by him with dark messages? Maybe the storm carried you, and you would merely shelter here, in this sad house, this desert land. Then why do you sit there, undaunted, enchanted? Tell me truly, I asked. Tell me, will I ever find a cure for this sorrow? Tell me, quoth the raven. I was not worthy of a sainted maiden as Lenore, so rare and so radiant. Raven, I said, knowing his reply would only confirm my darkest fear. When I too am taken by the angels, will my sorrow-laden soul with Lenore enfold? Quoth the raven. You lie, I shrieked, but the bird did not move. Leave me, back on the storm which brought you to me, back to the underworld. Leave not even a feather to remind me of your fiendish lies. Take your beak from my broken heart and leave the bust above my chamber door. Quoth the raven. But there the raven has remained, on the bust above my chamber door. Sorrow over wisdom. The only way out of this room, guarded by the symbol of my sorrow, to emerge from the loss of my love, Lenore. Cursed by this bird's presence, as its shadow from my soul shall be lifted nevermore.